Hi, and welcome to another episode in the GS podcast series. We're happy to be collaborating on these podcasts with A Day in the Life, a non-profit initiative that connects students with real-life professionals to inspire diverse career choices. A Day in the Life brings mentors from different industries into schools, using storytelling and real-life experiences to help students discover career paths they may not have considered. Through these conversations, we uncover the challenges, rewards, and unexpected turns that shape different careers. To learn more, visit www.dayinthelife.cyprus.org or follow on Instagram at A Day in the Life Cyprus. Now, let's get started. First of all, I'd like to introduce our special guest, Anna Stylianidou. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And I'd also like to introduce one of our students, Ourania Shiaka, who's going to be leading the interview today. But before we move on to some of our first questions, I'd like to find out a little bit more, Anna, about yourself. Now, I know that you're an animator and you are an illustrator, and that you're from Cyprus. But could you tell us what type of animation that you do currently?
So I've covered all different kinds of animation throughout my career. So I've worked on short films, TV series, apps, mobile games, video games, and now I'm into the advertising industry.
And it's quite interesting that you started with a background in traditional painting, and we will talk about that in a little bit more depth later. But from traditional painting, what are you doing now?
My first degree was traditional animation, and then I got more into computer animation, 3D. And since more into motion graphics. And as a freelancer, I also worked on some illustration for children's books.
Mm-hmm. And currently, I see that you're working for ITG.
Yeah.
Could you tell us who they are and what they do?
So ITG, Inspired Thinking Group, is a mostly UK-based company It's an advertising and marketing company, and they're expanding throughout Europe and America at the moment. ITG is transforming the way global brands do marketing, and they've created a way to create lots of great looking and effective marketing content. Really fast, using a combination of creative, AI, and customized tech.
So, we mentioned that you started from traditional painting. Did you know that you wanted to go with animation from the start? Or did you do any foundation degrees in art before that, so you could describe more about it?
So when I started thinking about art, I didn't even realize that animation was an option for a career.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're good at art, people say, oh, it can be good as a hobby. It's not really, you don't want to be an artist.
The classic phrase.
It's not going to be profitable or successful. And also if you're good at academics and other things, it's like, oh, why would you choose the harder path of being an artist?
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find a way, how can I do art, but have it more as a more commercial or profitable, successful profession. So when I discovered, okay, you can actually do animation, it's such a great way to combine art and creativity, and the ability to also tell stories and entertain audiences in a cinematic way.
Because I can speak as a student who is also stuck between the creative career and a more academic career. Would you recommend to a student like me to go with animation if, we want to kind of combine technology and art and also have a profitable career in the future?
So it really depends on the person. What do you see yourself doing, and what do you think you can commit yourself into doing? Because whatever you do, you're going to be practicing it every day. So you want to pick something that you enjoy, but also that has some prospects. So with animation, it has come a long way since I finished high school and university. So there are so many options you could choose to specialize in. And with remote working, you're not really confined in where you are. So it's important for me, it was important to have a first couple of industry jobs, like work your way up. And then you can relocate, you can work remotely, you can be a freelancer once you have some connections and some clients. And at the moment I am based in Cyprus, but I work for an international company. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds.
So to me, it seems that in order to become an animator and work in any creative industry, you need to be, even looking at you and how many things you've done, you worked in game design, in TV, in apps, you need to be someone who can adapt and change because you have so many projects. Is that right?
So it does, again, it depends. Okay. You could choose, like my first job in industry was in the games industry. So I could have chosen to continue that. I did miss the sun though, so I came back to Cyprus. But in Cyprus, because it is a small place, so more limited choices. So you might have smaller teams, smaller studios, or as a freelancer, you kind of learn to do a bit of everything. So there's people that do enjoy that and they see that as a challenge. But other people would, if they would rather specialize into something, then, and at the moment I feel like I'm enjoying being the animator. I'm enjoying doing the work, and being creative in that way, learning things that are more relevant to what I do. And then I leave the project management to someone else, and the designers to do their design or contact the client. So I get to focus on the actual creative animation work.
Yeah. So you actually enjoy the specializing in animation more rather than doing a lot of...
Because it's also varied, because we might work on a couple of different projects every day or every week, depending on deadlines, or so we get to cover all the clients that the company has, and it might be very different between them. So you never get bored, and it's exciting because we do. So each team member might even have a different specialization. So we have a 3D department, but we know who is good at or better at what, and then they would get that task or that client or that project based on their strengths and what they enjoy doing.
What was your first job in the animation industry? Your very first?
So when I did my bachelor's degree in the UK at the Arts Institute of Bournemouth. Now I believe it's called Arts University of Bournemouth, which was traditional animation. And then I did a master's in computer animation. So that was an intense year of learning that, like modeling from scratch and then making your own short film. So finishing that, my main options in the UK were film industry or games industry. And film industry felt like a lot harder to get into, or you would start as a runner or a free internship. So it would be a hard option if you don't have somewhere to stay, if you have to pay rent in London. You want to jump into actual work, getting paid. And I would hear some people, it's like, oh, we're making tea, or we get to like rotoscope, like Photoshop some of the frames. I mean, it's a great film, but it's a very slow process of getting higher up the ladder. So I also applied to game studios, and I got hired by Gusto Games as a junior artist. So I had about a week to learn a new software because they used a different one than the one I did at university. But it was such a good team and a fun project because we were working on I Spy games for the Wii. And so such a fast learning process and within a team. So it was, we also did National Geographic games and worked with motion capture for cricket game. So again, it was a variety of different experiences.
Okay, what does a typical day look like for you as an animator? I'm sure our students would be very interested in that.
So because I work remotely, there's no commuting involved. So that's, I have a home office set up with lots of screens and drawing tablets. So it starts by me checking through my emails and task lists because overnight, over in the Europe side, we get feedback from the US of all the work we've handed in. So we get feedback from design team or clients if everything is working great or if we need to do any edits. So you start sort of doing that depending on what's more urgent because we may have multiple deadlines in a day or a week. And then because we're constantly on Teams to keep communicating with the rest of the team or anyone else that needs to communicate with us. And we have a group, so people start logging in depending on their time zone. And it's quite a relaxed sort of friendly vibe between us, between the animation team. And we exchange like, how was your weekend? Okay, we need to do this. Does anyone need help? I'm finished with my task. And then we submit throughout. We have we're very organized in our online sort of schedule systems. And we start getting more feedback around midday when US wakes up. And they get back to us, anything else that needs done. Sometimes we've got meetings happening. Sometimes meetings are awkward times, depending, but they try and accommodate everyone to sort of work with their time zone.
I have a question which is not exactly animation related. Do you enjoy working remotely? Because personally, one of the things that excite me about getting a job is about working at a place and going there and seeing the people of my team and interacting. So how is that?
Good question. And it's got its positives and its negatives. So yeah, because I've experienced that studio environment, and it is a different vibe because especially if you're creative and sometimes you want to bounce ideas off someone. And I remember, you go and get a cup of tea or coffee, and then you have a more personal conversation with someone, or you're still discussing work and you're like, oh, what do you think of this or that? Or you can look over somebody's shoulder. And especially I think when you're starting out as in junior person or training, you might not want to reach out to someone that you haven't even met and you're working like online. So it is, for me, it was important to have that personal connection and go like, excuse me, can I ask you this? Or how do you do that? And so I do miss that. But then also it's good to have the opportunity to work with exciting international clients and projects, and budgets that allow you to do a lot more than if I had local clients. So and the flexibility of having your own sort of time frame, and if you have a family, it's convenient to stay close.
And I see that even as a student, I see the difference of working alone in my home on a piece of art. Whereas when I'm in my art class and there's people around me and we talk and I see what they're doing and I ask them about it, you know, I think art is more, it is an individual subject, like you work on it on your own. But I think it's more about the community as well than people think. I think it's nice to have a part in somebody's career if they're creative, where they're working with other people, because that's where you can exchange ideas a lot. Yeah,
definitely. And yeah, so on that, we've, the animators of Cyprus. So we started meeting up, a few years ago. We created this Facebook group. And because a lot of us were freelancing, or wanted to reach out with like-minded people or collaborate. So we started creating this meetups. So we started meeting up over a drink or food and then discuss or complain or, I don't know, connect. So from that, we started realizing, okay, we should create an association and push the animation industry further in Cyprus. So we did that in 2018.
I think I know what you're referring about.
It's the CAA, Cyprus Animation Association. So, so it's been great since, because there might not be that many of us, and some of us, you know, some people just want to keep to themselves. But it's a nice opportunity if you want to, attend any of the workshops that the board organizes, or we put some pressure on the sort of government funds that we're trying to get for people to do projects, or films or series, and just the networking or the getting together and talking about things or forming sort of possible collaborations, or even encouraging people to kind of demand more, because sometimes you would see artists not being appreciated enough by a client or an employer. So, you know, a young person starting out might be taking advantage of, in terms of, you don't have a family, you're learning, I'm not going to give you a lot of money, I'm going to, you know, work you as hard as I can, and people can easily burn out or lose that motivation that they start with.
So it's good to have a community.
So it's good. And like young people come in and like, okay, well, put your, you know, boundaries and your limits and ask for more if you feel that you deserve more.
If someone is considering animation and they're more of the person who wants to work in a team and wants to be around people, would you encourage them to go with that profession, or would you? Because it sounds at the same time that it's a solitary profession, but there are groups where we can join, so we can be around like-minded people. So what do you think?
So the animation industry has changed a lot since I first started. So we do have production houses and some small animation studios in Cyprus. We have some games companies. I think a couple of them might have started and disappeared as they try and find their footing. But things are progressing and happening, which is good. And it's nice to have amazing people come back to the island and start making their own little studios, to work together as a team, because it can get much stronger, and we can be a hub for outsourcing. So if once you start, like, you get a project happening or something on your folio, then you can get more and more work. So I think it's happening, and I hope it keeps happening.
Because I usually hear the usual phrase that there's no jobs in Cyprus related to art and animation. And I hear them a lot from people who are not in the industry. So hearing that from someone like you is really helpful and encouraging, you know?
I'm not going to say it's easy. So it does take a lot of hard work, and, but with the option of remote working and, relocating for a couple of months to do, to work on something in Europe and then returning back, or the option of, like, in other cities, I know people that work sort of couple of days from home, and then they might travel to Limassol, or Larnaca for a couple of days to work in a company. So it is possible.
I'd like to add to that, because quite often, as Ourania has said, when we're talking to parents in particular, the thing they're afraid about in following your creative passions is that financially you will be much worse off than if you had followed, something more traditional, the maths or the engineering route. And for a student like Ourania, who is really good at, everything, then you do listen to these sorts of things, and students are swayed to choose more traditional subjects because of this financial aspect. And I just wondered if this were true.
I am currently being swayed. To be honest.
So I've been there. So I remember taking the path of, like, all right, okay, I'm gonna take more sciences, and I'm gonna, do psychology or psychiatry, and leave art as a hobby. And I remember feeling this doesn't feel right. I'm not happy doing this, and I found myself, like, sketching throughout chemistry class, and then meeting people, thinking, okay, what are my other options, and what can I see myself doing in the future? So you have to see what you see yourself doing, and if you put your effort in it, then you can excel in it, and the industry doesn't have to confine you, like, where you are. One good thing that COVID brought, I think, was this remote and, like, or sort of connecting online, with people. And also it showed us that entertainment industry or advertising industry is so important. When everything was shut down, people would turn to games and movies, to kind of, like, feel better. So we might not value art as much as, banking or something else. And we think it's not a successful career, but if it's what you want to do, there are commercial, profitable ways to do it.
I think if somebody is truly passionate about these creative careers, they're going to find a way to work it out, because they're going to put in the work if they have the passion. And also we have to consider the fact that if we're so passionate about something and pursue something else, that something else is going to be our profession. We're not going to have the same time to put into our creative, needs, like what we want to do, our art. So because if you go to an 8-hour job as a psychologist or psychiatrist, and then you have a family as well in the future, how much time is going to be left to illustrate, you know? So realistically, we have to consider all this stuff.
But also there is a bit of a wake up call, because you might imagine something to be like, oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be this. I'm going to be painting all day.
Yeah.
But like I did find myself, in the past thinking, I'm doing this project because I want to survive, and it's not something I enjoy. So you have your ups and downs of, especially as a freelancer, you can't, when you start out, you can't afford to say no to a lot of jobs. So you might find yourself, I've been working on the computer, or like I hear that from like the graphic designers, like I've been working on these things that are not exciting all day. And then when I want to have some personal time to myself to create something, I've lost that energy to do it. So it's not always fun and easy, but with any job, to be honest, but as long as there's the occasional kind of thing that you can get excited about and passionate, and enjoy the process and not just the results, or whatever it involves, even if it's just the communication or the problem solving, or the challenge of learning something new. Because it does take a lot, because technology is advancing so fast. You have to kind of like keep on top of it.
Yes. But I think you do raise a very important point, because I think the fact that art becomes a profession and it becomes something you want to do, you have to do. And you have to do things for a client and not for yourself. And creativity comes from within us at the end of the day. I think it is restrictive sometimes. And some people cannot endure that in their work. So I think it is a very important thing to consider if you want to follow art. Can you stand doing something you don't want to do? You know?
I think this brings in skill set, though, doesn't it? Which you mentioned, problem solving, and possibly people don't connect that skill with the creative, art. So I think if you have the right skill set, even though you're going to find difficulties, I think you will ultimately enjoy something that you're passionate about. And we're in a career a lot longer than we're at school. And so the advice I always give to students is to follow your heart, because it's a long time to regret not doing what you love. And I wondered, what skill set do you believe that students need to take with them into the field of work that you're in?
So I would say it's important to be observant. So like kind of observe the world around you. Great advice that I got from a favorite teacher of mine at university was keep a sketchbook. Always sketch for yourself, like notes. It's like, oh, I like that idea. Maybe that I can turn that into a comic one day, or a film, or just observing like splash of color that inspires you. And you keep that as like a journal and a process. And then you can go back to those things and be inspired. And also it will be to put in the work to develop, and don't be so precious about everything I make has to be perfect, or keep comparing yourself with really acclaimed artists or professionals, because for them to get there, they were once where, you were, and they put in the work every day to get where they are, and they scrapped a lot of pieces in the process that we're not happy with. So you have to kind of, and I remember being in that, oh, I need to make a folio so I can get into university and everything has to be great. And you obsess about that instead of like, okay, what am I feeling? What can I express? What can I learn? What can I do? As a process, as an, creative expression, which is important. And one one struggle I think young people will have now is with AI. I find that it can be such a great tool to help you speed up your process. Like we use it at work in software that can speed things up, or we have new technologies that can output more work. But if you're a young person trying to develop some skills like researching and drawing, if you skip that step and you have sort of computer do it for you or AI do it for you, then you're not developing those skills, and you're missing out on expanding and learning and creating the skills in a very competitive environment. So it's easy to skip that and just have it done quickly. But yeah, I would say learn the technology, but also do the work and develop your skills, because there's so many resources as well online. There's so many tutorials. You can learn so many different things and find your way and your passion.
I think there's definitely a constructive way of using AI, especially as a student. And there's definitely a line where it's overused sometimes, and it defeats the purpose of it.
For me, I always wondered with the creative industry whether AI enables people without talent to get the jobs that previously talented people would get before.
I think at the end of the day, there's only so much you can claim you can do, and then somebody will discover that you can't. If I want to write something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to force myself to write it, and I'm going to put that effort in, and then I felt much better for it. And then I develop that skill, for example, instead of just like, I'm just going to have someone write it for me. I know with the time pressure, you might be sort of pushed into trying to fit more in, but even if you're applying somewhere and you're showing them work that's not done by you, that's only gonna come back later when you're struggling to keep up with what you said you can do.
You said you now work with ITG Inspired Thinking Group.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked into that a little bit, and don't they have to do a lot with AI? But I can't completely understand exactly.
One great way that we're using it is we have this software called Storytech. So it's great for when you have your, let's say, your hero concept, which is your main sort of concept for an advertising campaign. And then you don't want to you want to create, okay, for this target audience, we want to take this sort of way of reaching them. And this is a different age group. These people are using Instagram. These are using YouTube. So you can sort of create the assets and then plug them in. And then instead of taking so much longer to make those different sort of versions, which would be videos and web banners and whatever, then you sort of plug those in, and then you get the results faster. And then with AI, you sort of target the right audiences, and you don't flood them with information. You just like, okay, I'm going to show you what would really interest you and something that you really enjoy watching, that will give you the information you need for this product or for this shop or whatever. So
as an animator at ITG, do you create content that the AI then uses?
So the AI, helps us to sort of make all the end products faster. So the
Okay.
halo comes, so like all the supporting.
So the AI doesn't create them, but it speeds up the process.
Yeah, I mean, you still have a creative person
Yes.
creating the campaign, the ideas and the concepts, and you still have the animators and the putting things together, or you still go to do a video shoot of real people and products or whatever, and then the AI just speeds up the process, which would be like more boring, I guess, for us to kind of like, okay, we have to make this size, and then this has to be the same thing but different size, and then we have to put the different ending or different text. So you kind of skip that process by producing more variations quicker.
I remember when AI first started gaining momentum. I was wondering, along with so many other people, whether artists are going to be replaced by AI. And I remember someone told me that they're not going to be replaced. It's like when the photograph was invented, realist artists, didn't, they weren't just disappearing. So I think animation and AI, they're kind of working together now, instead of one eradicating the other.
So, I mean, ideally we want to use it as another tool. But I think an audience feels if something was not created by a human, like you would watch a Ghibli Studios, like a Japanese movie, and like there is a scene of a crowd that took them like 3-4 years to make, because every person was drawn by different animators, and you watch it and you want to take it back and watch it again because it's like mind blowing. I could have AI do that for me, but then I watch it back because I'm like, something doesn't feel right. Like this doesn't, so it's, yes, it's good. Like I've seen stuff done with AI that's like, okay, so you have this small studio or somebody with ideas, they want to use it as a tool to get sort of a first look of what that would look like. So it is a good way to sort of skip some stages. And if you can't afford to hire like a big animation studio to do this concept that you have independent creators that do that. And it's a good way maybe to get noticed and to like sort of start a process. And then it's like, okay, now let's get real people to make real artwork, and make it amazing, let's say. So I could see that being used in that way. But it pains me to hear that, like, okay, so this game studio shut down because, we're going to fire some of the artists and we're going to have AI do their work. And it's like, that might affect your product.
You can definitely tell when AI art or animation doesn't have human intention behind it, I feel. That's why I really doubt that art is going to be ever replaced completely by AI, because art is essentially coming from this human intention. And we can tell if something doesn't have it. It's sort of uncanny.
The thing that worries me with AI, it creates shortcuts, but then are the people involved expected to do more projects because they can do them faster? And then where does that stop? Does the workload become too much? Because whereas it would take you many weeks for one project, with AI, you can do it in half the time. So now they want 2-3 projects. And I wonder if AI is creating sort of more of an intensity in the workload.
I think, that does happen. Like if you find a software or plugin that does things faster for you, and then like, okay, but now I can do this faster, so then I can complete more things. So I think that the pressure is still going to be there, whether it was one thing that took 4 hours or 4 things that now take shorter time. But yeah, I think that is the push for people wanting more profit.
Yeah. And who is your favorite animator? And then I'd like Ourania to tell us hers as well.
So I really admire Glenn Keane. So he is amazing character animator for like some famous Disney films like Rapunzel and Tarzan, and he's done some of his own short films, and like amazing drawing skills and feeling put into that. I also like Aardman's studios, so like the Nick Park, and because I love stop motion, and so that plasticine feel is like a very different, amazing tool for animation. And yeah, Ghibli studio. So Hayao Miyazaki is like amazing storyteller and animation.
What about yours?
I would say I don't know a lot of animators' names, to be honest, but I do love Studio Ghibli's films, and Miyazaki is definitely amazing. I can tell you that I love the animation of Inside Out.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but I feel that's just a standard great animation movie. Yeah.
So that's one of my favorites, like sort of latest favorites, because of all the extra effort and the style to it. Because 3D, I don't like when it's like the super polished and like really shiny, but when you have some more like organic elements put onto it,
I know exactly what you mean.
Gives it an amazing sort of extra push for like looking more experimental and creative. So yeah.
What's the best advice you've ever received about working in animation?
Yeah, going back to the sketchbook thing. So I think like I don't do as much. I need to find more time, but yeah, now it's sort of been replaced with a like a tablet, with a drawing tablet.
Can you remember something that you noted in that sketchbook that turned into maybe one of your favorite projects that you've ever done?
When in our final year at the university, we had to make pitch our own film. So I had these drawings of a little girl and a cat. So that sort of, I kept going back to that, and then it developed into sort of a story that then we would all pitch in our second year so we can do in our third year. And I remember I was heartbroken because when I did the pitch, it's like, it's good, but not quite there. So go back and come back next week and build up the story a bit more. So you get that kind of first rejection, and but then you go back, and then I think we had some graduates that came and helped us sort of to develop the story and kind of think more sort of out of the box. So going back, we kind of went back to the drawing board and pitched it again, and then I was like, okay, now it works, and now you can go and do it. And then it's like, yes, and then it takes almost a whole year to do a 3-minute film because it was hand drawn.
It's insane to think about the work that goes behind an animation film.
And because it takes so long, it's like, unfortunately, it's like sort of a dying art because they want things to be faster.
Automated, yes.
Yeah.
But it still takes a lot of time to create even those films that are more fast-paced.
Yeah, because now you have to like do all the hair dynamics, all the like little tiny details and everything. So there's always details. So yeah, it's a challenge, I think, for anyone going into art or animation to balance your perfectionism with sort of efficiency, to not get too lost into details.
I feel it's animation. It's a blessing in disguise for the film industry because you can do anything. You can create anything. but the work that will go into those frames one by one is insane. So
that's why it's good to know that, all right, the story, what do I want to say? So first you kind of like, okay, do my thumbnails, think this is what it's going to look like, and then slowly build it up. So like even if you're doing a character walk, you kind of start, with a part like the torso and the head, and then it's like going up and down, and then you add the legs. You're happy with that, and then you add the arms. It's like it's a process of building up, as opposed to I'm going to start and draw the eyes perfectly, and then you discover by the end that it's like I put so much work into it, but I didn't know what I wanted to say, or the movement wasn't great to begin with. So
you need to have an idea first, a goal to start. Okay. And I've always wondered how you animators create the body so perfectly and the movements so perfectly. I just don't understand how you can convey that on screen so efficiently and so effectively.
If you see the rough drawings first, like and old school animators would use a blue pencil to do like just so rough to get that movement, and it's also important to, like, they would tell us, get up and act it out. You need to feel where the weight is. You need to, and we all had like a mirror to like see expressions. So that's why sometimes you might spot certain animators and they're like, oh, or this character looks like the voice actor, because they would look at their sort of the reference material. So you kind of gain that understanding of the weight and the action, and then you push it even further. But also you need to put the effort into do your like figure studies and study the body and how, because first it's important to learn the basics, like as in the realistic sort of anatomy, and then you push it further. Like then you're gonna make it into a caricature after you have the understanding of where each muscle and each bone goes, or how it all works. Then you can push it and make it into, I don't know, a creature from your imagination.
Would you say that the way to reach that level of just understanding anatomy so well that you can even draw caricatures so easily? Because I feel in order to draw something that's more of a caricature, you need to know the basics so well, as you said.
Yep.
Would you say that the key is practice? I feel like it, yeah, even with art. And I see that it's just behind a good face that I draw. They're just 1,000 failed faces. It's just, it took a lot of practice.
You realize that, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you're learning a language or a musical instrument, you're gonna start with like some maybe boring basics until you get to the real like sort of great and like learning curve of like, okay, now I've drawn 100 faces, this one is working, I love it, this is it.
Okay, just one final question. I just wondered what piece of advice you would give our students who want to get into animation. So I would say if you have the talent and the passion, that is your sort of your raw material, and from there you need to put the effort in and the practice.
Keep the sketchbook around.
Yeah, and use that passion.
Well,
put it in your art.
Thank you very much for joining us. It was very informative and excellent questions, Ourania.
Excellent questions,
We've had a very nice morning, and thank you.
Thank you.